As you can tell from the corner of my bedroom, I like reading books. I like reading mysteries, classics, sci-fi, historical, suspense, and thrillers. I basically read whatever. I love dumping a bunch of money on books, and I've seen a lot of people yap about books, so here I am. I have a big old stack of books, and these are some of my favorite books I'm going to talk about. So, the first book is Roots: The Saga of American Family by Alex Haley. This took me 3 months to read. This is a freaking long book. This is thick. My editions are 700 pages. A lot of the other editions go from like almost 1,000. So this is a long book. It starts with Kunta Kinte and his life in Africa. We get to see school, how schooling works, and the friends and his family there. One day, when he's going to get supplies for Drum, he's captured and taken to America and sold into slavery. We get to see him experience American life, and there's some pretty devastating scenes about what slavery was like, and that was definitely hard to read and just so sad. And it is a saga book, that's why it's really long. We see him during the 1700s, and then the 1800s, and then during the Civil War until they are free. There are a lot of characters in this book. It's a saga book, so that's mainly why. Each of these characters are well developed and have their own personal struggles, and we get to see their lives in America. This is also based on a very famous TV show. It's like one of the most watched TV shows in the United States. I haven't seen it quite yet, but I'm hoping someday I can watch it. I know it does seem a little daunting due to the length. This edition's 700 pages, but it is an experience that you will remember forever, and that I haven't felt or seen in any other books. It is worth it to put in the time and effort for this book. Up next, All Quiet on the Western Front. I read this back in May, and I gave this book 5 stars. We follow a soldier and his friends, I don't remember their names, I'm so sorry, as they go through World War I. I guess the author of this book was involved and part of the army in World War I, so he put a lot of his experiences in here, and this truly shows like how devastating and how sad war is. There are definitely a lot of sad scenes in this book. Like one moment you get to see these friends, and then all of a sudden one of them gets severely hurt. There are a lot of battle scenes in here because, you know, it takes place during World War I. And it's shocking to see what these young men had to go through. Young men that are freaking my age, bro. All the stuff that they had to go through is devastating. Soldiers are seen as these tough people who, even though they're going through all this, they don't show any emotions and stuff like that. I really recommend this, and I think everyone should read this book because it really shows like how war is not a really good thing and what it's like actually being a soldier and stuff like that. Up next is Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. This is the book that got me into reading. I heard about the ending of this book and I was really curious to read it, so I did. And it changed everything for me. Of Mice and Men is about George and Lenny and them going to a ranch to go find work. And then we follow mainly George and Lenny, but we get to meet a bunch of other people that work on the ranch, and each of them have a dream, but like due to the Great Depression, this place takes place during the 1930s, that they can't do any of those things because of the situations they are in. This talks a lot about loneliness, something I experienced in my life, and probably you guys have experienced too. And it writes it really, really well. I've read this twice. I read it in English class last year, my junior year in high school, and I really got you. And what made that good was I really got you like understand like the symbolism behind this book. With a small book, it packs a lot. If you want a book that's gonna make you cry, this is destined to make you cry. So read this book. Speaking of sad books, Tuesdays with Morty's by Mitch Albom. This is a good book, but it's so sad. This is a true story about Morty, who is dying from a disease, and Mitch would fly down there and they would discuss topics, and he wrote them all into this book. There are a lot of lines in here that you can underline. There are a lot of quotes in here that I love and adore. And what the saddest scene is that we slowly get to see the disease go through Morty, and it's slowly leading him to his death and stuff like that. And Morty is like, it's just such a good character, and he just seemed like an amazing person. And I really, like, as I was reading this, I wanted to meet Morty because of all the stuff that he was saying. He seemed like a really good guy. And I think everyone should read this to get you to know Mori through this book and stuff like that. So, and your boy was so close to crying near the end of this. So, up next we got A Time to Kill by one of my favorite authors, John Grisham. I read this last year over the summer, and this is by far one of my favorite books by John Grisham. The book is about a father who takes revenge on these two guys who did a really bad thing to his daughter. And then we follow his lawyer, Jake, who's trying to set him free because his family needs him. His family is struggling, the daughter is really struggling, and it follows a lot about racism and like the whole town, and it really shows like an aspect about how kind of messed up this town is. The court scenes in this book are very interesting and well written. I love this book. This will get you into John Grisham. It's by far one of the best books I've read by him. So, yeah. Up next is a man called Ove, or Ovi. I don't know how to say it. Ovi is this grandpa who is like sort of kind of depressed. He's got a lot of trials going on in his life, and he's just very, very rude. Like every interaction he has, he's very kind of like always in a pissed off mood and stuff like that. But there's a lot of heart to him. He's got a really good backstory. It's very good and very kind of depressing. A family moves in right next to Ove, and we get to see the heart of Ove that's been deep down inside of him slowly come up, and we get to see a great character that Fredrik Backman has created. This is another sad book. The ending, I was not expecting the ending, but it's one of those books that I read a couple months ago, and I can't stop thinking about it. Ove is such a good character, and I love these chapter names. The names of each of these chapters are just so funny, and this book has a lot of humor to it, and also has a lot of heart to it, and that's what I love. And I'm really excited to pick up more by my boy Fredrik Backman. We got a young adult book, Paper Towns by John Green. And I know a lot of people don't like John Green. There's a couple good books and a couple not so good books that fall on our stars, but this is by far one of my favorite John Green books. I can't remember the guy's name. I read this last year, but basically him and a girl named Margot go and do all these pranks. Then all of a sudden the next day at school, Margot disappears, and she's leaving tips everywhere where she's going, and you get to see like the main character and his friends slowly figure out where she is. And I read this before my senior year, and the main character in here is a senior. There's a section in here that I can relate to a lot. It talks about moving on from high school, and it just really hit me hard knowing that this was going to happen to me, that I was going to be moving on and stuff like that. The ending of the book was very like, I was not expecting it to be like that, because most books, I thought it was going to be like a nice ending that wrap it up, but it was completely different. This is one of the first books that I did annotate. I know there's a lot of love-hate relationship with John Green, but this is by far one of my favorite books by him. So, we got another classic, 1984, George Orwell. I read this in school, actually, 3 years ago. I tried reading this book. Your boy was not locked in. This book, it's the problem with this. I'm not really saying it's a problem. It's kind of George Orwell's writing. But the thing is that he gets really descriptive. Like some of these, he got paragraphs are going on and on and on and on. And it really kind of like, it can become a struggle for people with low attention spans like me. No, maybe, I don't know. Follow Winston in this dystopian society that there's a lot of control involved. He meets a girl named Julia, and then he slowly rebels against the government, and we get to see the consequences that come with that. The fact that George Orwell had all of this in his mind, and the fact that some of the stuff in here is going on in today's world is very interesting. Near the end, kind of near like the end of the book where he's in room 101, there's a lot of stuff that was said that is generally just so interesting. This is by far one of the most interesting books that I've ever read. I'm really glad that I read this in school so I could get a deeper understanding of it. And yeah, everyone needs to read this book. And finally, everyone's been talking about this, 11/22/63 by my boy Stephen King. This book is so freaking good. I gave it 4.5 stars. I had like some little bit of problems in there, but it like that I didn't really like. But overall, I love this book. Love Treasure 63 is about a man who goes back in time to try to prevent the Kennedy assassination. But it's more than that. We get to see his life in the 1950s. And it's written really well. Like, we get to see a romance bloom. We get to see this guy live his life in the 1950s. And it felt like you were there. Like, there's a lot of research put into this book. I felt like I was in the 1950s. And dog, I wasn't even born in the 1950s. I wasn't even alive in the 1950s. But I felt like I was there. The ending of this book wrapped it up perfectly. And I haven't read much Stephen King books yet, but I know a lot of people say that Stephen King fumbles the ending sometimes, but this time, he really cooked on this ending. In fact, he cooked on his entire book. It is a long book, but it flies by. I read this in a month, so beautiful book. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is my first video, so I have no clue what I'm doing. Recommend me some books in the comments, please. I need more book recs.